Welcome back, Thrones fans, to the third episode of the Iron Price. Today, we're going to be talking about House Martell, Princess Promised. As you can see with the title, The Quentin That Was Promised, featuring Mag the Mighty. I have my usual co-host, Todd Jansen. And then,
Hello, hello.
today, we also have a guest, Mr. Jim Hansen. Welcome, Mr. Jim Hansen. How you doing today?
For sure.
I'm good. I'm ready. I'm excited to talk about some decks.
Yeah, this one's a little different than I think most people would be expecting.
That's usually my goal.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and you do a really good job of building and piloting those sort of decks. So we're excited to hear you talk through this one with us here.
Yeah, you live up to your reputation for that. So
There's a balance between making a good deck and an unexpected deck or a janky deck.
yeah,
And sometimes it's hard to find that balance, and sometimes I can't find it either. But I tend to skew towards the more janky and surprising decks to just kind of catch people off guard.
yeah. I think you find that the balance very well.
Yeah. Do you generally start with like just with an idea, like it would be fun to see this go off. Let's see if I can make it good. Or do you look for something that you can exploit? Like how do you go about finding a deck like that?
Yeah, so my deck building process very much starts with usually like a 2 or 3 card combo.
Sure.
So like, I did really well at Nats a few years ago, and that was just like, hey, Lord Renly's Ride and Plaza of Pride looks like a fun combo. You can get lots of Intimidate. Let's build around that. And I had the deck at Worlds that was like Warriors Braid and lots of Stand, like lots of Renown. Like let's build around that.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's like the Osmond Kettle Black and House Flora Knight. So like a lot of my decks just kind of start with 2 or 3 cards, and then things fill in after that. And so this deck is very similar in that approach. And that, I was looking at the Prince That Was Promised agenda, and I think, the typical thing that most people build around is like, okay, I can make some Voltron, and if he dies, I can bring him back and try and re-Voltron and just let him go ham. So like if you're talking about Robert Baratheon or Balin, that's kind of the standard thing. But I think the really fun way to use that agenda is to find people that have enters play or on death or removed from game. So like Varys is a very fun way to use that agenda. Kind of outside the box a little bit. Similarly, like Ramsay would be that way too. And so I looked at that and was like, well, Quentin does this pretty powerful thing when he dies. What if we can just kill him over and over again? So that was kind of the genesis of the deck, was looking at that agenda and finding a fun way to use it.
Yeah.
So that was the first piece. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's probably the next best thing to do with that agenda is if you're not going like you said Voltron, find the thing that is equally as powerful, but in another way, like you said, as Varys and Ramsay. I think those are the alternates, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So then it's like, okay, we're trying to kill Quentin as much as we can. So okay, how can we kill Quentin? And it's like, how about Mag the Mighty? He's one of my favorite characters.
Sure.
So like that interaction, it's so fun. So you win a challenge, and Mag kills your Quentin. Your Quentin kills one of their guys, and then they have to kill someone for Mag, and then it's military claim. So it's like 3 claim on just a regular military challenge that you do with Mag.
God, that's dirty.
If you have Quentin in play. And so then you win the power challenge, get Quentin back, play him again the next turn, get your 3 claim again, rinse and repeat, or 4 claim if you've got a 2 claim plot. So that's kind of the core idea of the deck. And the rest of it's really built around making sure you can play Quentin and everyone else every turn. It's about building up his strength so that he can hit higher strength targets. And it's about economy, so there's a lot of economy in this deck.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I see that Dawn there, so I'm guessing that Dawn works pretty nice with him as well.
Yeah. So I can kind of like, sometimes you look at the plots first or the characters first or whatever. Like I think when thinking about this deck, I want to kind of walk through the process of how I made it because I think that might be valuable to people.
For sure.
Because it's like, yeah, you kind of have your core pieces, and then okay, like what fits with that and what supports that, and at that point, it kind of becomes a good stuff sort of deck. You can't just go full jank. You have to focus on the key pieces of the jank that you want to make work. So it's like, okay, so we've got Quentin and Mag as kind of our two key characters. It's like, okay, well, that means we got to run Great Halls because they're both 6 cost. And so it's like, okay, well, at that point, we should be running Core Doran because he can also use the Great Halls and he buffs Quentin to make him much higher strength. And he has insight and a power icon and all that jazz.
Oh yeah, he fits this deck really well.
Yeah, he fits this deck excellently. And then one of the new cards that's actually really good in this deck is the Prince's Attendant. They're 2 cost, and you can kneel them to reduce the cost of the next Lord or Lady by 2. So it's like if you got a couple Great Halls and a couple Prince's Attendants, like you can just vomit out some of these. You can play that Quentin every turn, and then the other big one is Ariane.
Yep.
You can play her every turn and bounce someone else.
Be still
just value for days.
Yeah, she's value for days. I love her.
Straight value. And so if you got Ariane and Doran and Quentin, which there's enough economy to support all those big cost guys, then it just gets out of hand. And you get some big 9 strength Ariane that can win the power challenge and draw you a card and bounce someone, and then you just play her again next turn because you have the economy.
Sure.
So there's kind of the big unique character package, which is all of them, and then I've got a 1x Red Viper, who actually kind of serves a different purpose that I'll touch on later.
Ooh, yeah, sure. I like it.
Yeah, he's sneaking in there. You also got some. You also got a couple. I guess. Well, maybe just one other. You got the Larissa Sand sitting in there. We'll let you get to that.
Yeah, right. So there's kind of the big character economy package, and then there's the like killing your own guys package. So a lot of my guys are going to die too. We've got Valor Morgullis in there. We've got Wildfire Assault, and we got Mag killing our own guys constantly. So we need to make sure that we can leverage that it doesn't hurt us and that it does hurt our opponent. So like the obvious choice is like 3x Desert Raider. So like they can die to Mag and then just come right back and maybe take away a power icon and then help me get through that Prince that was promised trigger. So like they're great for killing your own guys. I've got 3x Bastard Daughters for the same reason. You can kill them and knock out a card. So yeah, the 1x Larissa Sand, since my own guys are constantly dying, like she's really good card draw. And then Red Viper also. So the fun interaction is with Red Viper and Bastard Daughter. So the Bastard Daughter triggers when they die, but it also triggers when the Red Viper dies. And so if you get, say, 2 Bastard Daughters and a Red Viper out, and you Valor, that's 4 cards. Because they're going to trigger each on their own, and then they're each going to trigger on the Red Viper.
On the Red Viper.
So exactly. And then with Quentin gives you like an extra kill. So if you Valor and you're hitting your own Quentin, he triggers before everyone else dies. So if you can trigger Quentin and kill your own Bastard Daughter to get the 1 extra trigger.
Oh, wow.
Nice, yeah.
You can also trigger Quentin to target your own Red Viper and then get the 2 or 3 extra triggers if you have 2 or 3 Bastard Daughters.
Yeah, wiping the board and wiping their hand on the Valor. That's really good.
Exactly. And you can also trigger Quentin to hit whoever they're, say they got one character with a bodyguard or one character with a dupe.
Yep.
Quentin can clear that dupe, and then they die to the Valor.
Exactly.
So you can just really decimate someone with a Valor, wipe their board and their hand at the same time. Like I played one game where I had, 2 Bastard Daughters, 2 Bastard Daughters, 1 Viper, and 1 Doran. Not Doran, Quentin. And so, Quentin targeted the Viper with his death effect, and I ended up discarding 6 cards from their hand and wiping their board at the same time. And that just feels really good.
That feels real good. And real quick with the Lareiza Sand, I mean, that's a great value right there because you're killing Quentin. So I mean, she's automatically getting cards each turn because I'm sure you're bringing them back, killing them again.
Yeah, and if we Wildfire or Valor, that's just 1 free extra card draw during your plot.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's really good value.
That's good value. Absolutely.
That's nice.
What else is in here? So there's that, and then there's some general sort of attrition stuff. So the win condition of the deck is to wipe their board and ideally wipe their hand, but that's less important.
Yeah. So your draws coming from Arion, Lareiza, and we got Rivergate. How's Rivergate working for you?
It's good. I mean, I feel like in Martell, it's always easy to lose 2 challenges. Especially if you make 3 challenges, they're probably going to block at least one of them, and then if they make any challenges back at you. So I think it's one of the better of the 1 gold or of the gates locations.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, people have been talking about it, like Greyjoy, Stark having the easiest ones to pull off, and some of us Martell loyalists been talking like Kingsgrave is pretty easy for Martell to pull off.
Rivergate.
Or not Rivergate, sorry, not Kingsgrave. Rivergate.
I do want to hear the thoughts on the Kingsgrave and the Dornish Revenge, but yeah.
So the Kingsgrave, I think especially in a Prince That Was Promised deck, it's a really fun card. So say my opponent wants to make a power challenge against me, and I've got Kingsgrave out. If they limp in a power challenge, I can block big and trigger my agenda. If they send a big power challenge, I can trigger Kingsgrave and bounce one of their characters. So it kind of puts them in a tough spot as far as making power challenges.
Great point.
And similarly, maybe I make a big power challenge with Ariane, and they decide to block it, and then I bounce my Ariane back, and now they've won by 5, and I can bounce one of their characters. So, I've got there's ways to manipulate your strength mid-challenge. In Martell, and so when you do that, it can lead to extra agenda triggers and to surprise Kingsgrave triggers.
Yeah, that's definitely with Martell you get that, and now Shadows too. You get all these cool interactions during the challenge phase before it ends with your action windows, and you can pull off some cool stuff like that, stuff that people just can't think of.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Dornish Revenge is kind of similar as well. That we can win some challenges by 5. We have a lot of big strength pumps.
Sure.
And it's just an extra removal card.
Gotcha.
I mean, that one's certainly a little bit janky. I don't know if it should be in the deck, but I just wanted to try it. And then we got the 2 V blades to try and get rid of some of their claim soak, so that mag hits them even harder.
Yep.
If we look at the plot deck, so I've got At the Gates. It's a plot that I generally don't like, especially if you're finding Gates of the Moon. I think that's not the best opener. I don't like to use it, but At the Gates with Great Hall is very good value, and this is a deck that very much wants Great Halls every game.
Yep.
So it made sense to include At the Gates. And then I wanted some 2 claim plots. So I put in a City Besieged.
Yeah.
And there's enough economy locations that even on a 2 gold plot, I can still sometimes play Quentin and Ariane, or Quentin and Meg, or at least one of them.
Due to Prince's Attendant, yeah.
Right, from the Great Halls and the Prince's Attendants. And I mean, I've got.
Do you build that up? I'm guessing you build that up turn 3, probably.
I mean, sometimes sooner. It's just depends on the draw.
Depends on how it goes.
I mean, with the Prince's Attendants, I mean, they're very similar to Desert Scavengers.
Yeah.
in that you just play and reduce right away, and like it doesn't cost you anything. It's not a tempo hit to play them.
Yeah.
So if you have them and you can use them turn 1 or turn 2, then you can get your economy going really fast.
I mean, you are notoriously known for with your decks and other people trying to play it. You are almost Scrooge McDuck on economy. I've heard a lot of people say that, like decks, like I can't pilot this deck. I don't know how Jim does it, but there's no economy. I can't play anything.
That's not the case in this deck.
Yeah, clearly not. Clearly not.
Yeah.
But I know some people will be like, you can get Arion and Quentin out on a 2 gold plot. Please show me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you look at the plot line, there's not a single plot with more than 4 gold. Well, I mean, there's trade routes. So we got 1x trade routes, which maybe that should be 2. But there's enough locations. I mean, I'm looking at, 7, 10 limited, plus 3 summer seaports, plus water gardens.
Yeah.
That's
plus 3 desert scavengers and 3 princess attendants. So there's a lot of economy in the draw deck. There's very little in the plot deck.
Yeah, it's just not gold economy. Yeah.
Similarly, there's no draw in the plot deck. I know.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be very scared by that. I tend to not include a lot of draw in my plot deck, but there's a lot in the draw deck. I mean, we've got the Arians and the Dorans for their insight. We've got Greenblood Traders. The agenda trigger every turn is giving you some card draw. We got Lorra's of Sand in there, so there's enough to fuel it. But there will be times where you need that card draw or that econ and you don't have it. But it's just my style is to not include those safety valves, I guess. Just commit to my plan and hopefully it works. And if it doesn't, oh well.
Now I've heard you say that several times. Is you like to commit, so that's a thing about you, I guess, a fingerprint or a finger mark, and that's kind of what I want to get out of this show. Is the community doesn't. Everyone knows the community, but the community doesn't know its individuals. And I think this way you see how people think, how they play their decks, how they build them, and then why do they make their decisions. And yeah, you're known for that with the low econ and the low draw, as well as, like you said, just some of these calls, where people are just like, I couldn't do that or I wouldn't do that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. Another card worth mentioning, I guess I get He Calls It Thinking is very good, particularly during like a Valor or a Wildfire. So you can cancel like a Bodyguard or a Risen or a Vince on your Quentin. There's a lot of things that He Calls It Thinking will lead to an extra kill. And then Princess Plan is also a very good card for, like, sometimes I'll give Mag a power icon and then like he'll go in, trigger his reaction, kill Quentin, and then immediately trigger Princess's Promise to get Quentin back, like in the same reaction window.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a great play.
It's really good. That's
Quentin fetching Quentin. That's
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, we were just talking in our last video game video how He Calls It Thinking can really mess up some plans, and so I think that's a great include.
Yeah, it can be very powerful. Sometimes it's worthless, but those other times it's worth its weight in gold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially on Valor turns or like plot phase stuff, it definitely is worth it.
Yeah, plot phase, and this has a lot of plot phase stuff, so it leverages it well.
So with the retail, I'm guessing you went with this just for the reserve over winning your die.
Yeah, it's often like a turn 2 or turn 3 plot for me.
Yep.
And that's a little early to be doing you when you die.
Exactly.
I mean, if you've got your summer seaports, maybe. But yeah, exactly. And I generally like to go second. If you've got Quentin, then that gives him the stealth.
Yep. And the +1 strength. Yep.
And the +1 strength. I've only got 1 Dornish fiefdom. I guess I think that's the extent of my second player tech.
Yeah, you can always defend with Mag and Quentin and get your reactions the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that. They'll limp in some military challenge, and then I'll just like block with mag and kill 2 of their guys on defense.
Yeah, on defense, just easy.
Nice.
Yeah. And that clears the board, and that kind of hurts their turn right there, and then you just swing in on your 2 claim, So
Yep.
that's
You had mentioned that you're restricted here is trade routes, and you had said that it could be a 2 of in this deck. Is there a plot that you would look at to switch that out, or
It'd probably have to be one of the 2 claim plots.
one of the 2 claims? Sure.
But I like having 2 claim plots.
Yeah,
And-
that's
but it's
the
like when
fun
you
is, right?
exactly. But when trade routes is a restricted card, you kind of feel this desire to include 2 of it. Any restricted card, you want to include the max because it's got to be like the best card in your deck, right?
Yep, exactly. It's
So,
restricted.
Yeah.
There's definitely that pull, but I think there's enough econ typically that I don't need the second one.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I think you don't. Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you go all in, maximize. I mean, it's about killing, so I'm trying to maximize that.
So, Jim, what matchups have you faced that are difficult for this deck? Have you found difficult to play against?
So playing against other Desert Raiders is obviously a problem, just because they can soak up all the mag hits.
Sure.
Playing against some decks that can just shut down the power challenge, or
Sure.
like Stark that can just prevent the agenda trigger. That can be problematic. King Plot definitely hits me pretty hard because I rely a lot on the Great Halls and the Prince's Attendants for economy.
Mm-hmm.
So those are probably the main things. And Greyjoy is still Greyjoy. They're going to beat you sometimes.
They're gonna do things, yeah.
But those are the things that are specifically problematic for this deck.
Sure. Just trying to think about things that if people wanted to try to pilot this, that they're going to have to think ahead and try to play around. So.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Any last words, Jim, about this deck before we move on to play?
I think that pretty much covers it all.
All
I
right.
can't wait to see it in action.
Yeah.
So.
Me neither. Can't wait at all. So, all right, guys, you heard it from the master himself, who balances out Jink and playing competitively. So,
It's high praise.
I mean,
He's living the dream.
He's living the dream that the rest of us can't. I mean,
Yeah.
I only dream about it. So, all right, guys. So that'll be it for episode 3. I'm looking forward to this, Jim. So let's go ahead and move on to the game.
Sounds great.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.
Cheers.
We did it. Yes. Yes, we did it. No price to pay. We broke our rules just like her. The bill comes due.
And who are you? The proud Lord said that I must bow so low. Only a cat of a different coat. That's all the truth I